this is where it gets so weird with his Republic, because there's a question of how do we associate a person with a particular class?
Yeah.
And I think that maybe this is a problematic point here, because he doesn't have an impersonal mechanisms by which people will fall naturally into their place. He has a very top-down
He does.
way of allocating, let's say, position in society. So is this the...
and isn't it interesting how the philosophers should be at the top of the society? That's just... Nietzsche is right. All philosophy is self-confession. It's like, because if Plato had been a goat herd, he would have been like, well, the goat herd should be in charge, surely. But the one thing I find interesting about this is that it seems to me that Plato has reversed the way we should look at this. As in, yeah, a person should be associated with their class and they should be put, but the classes are drawn from the people. The people come first and then the class is perceived out of it, rather than the class exists as a form in space and time, then people should be shoved into that. And so I think that reversal of how things came to be is what makes Plato's Republic slightly dystopian to me.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of hate it.
No, I agree with you.
I actually think it should be overthrown.
I agree with you. I don't think that it's a particularly utopian place to live, because what I'm really worried about is this presumption. On the one hand, he seems to be totally aware that rulers are infallible.
Fallible, you mean?
Are fallible. Yeah. But on the other, thank you. That's on the other hand, he seems to have, he seems to say that this is the only way we can tread. We need to find those with a philosophical temperament, because they are not going to be tempted by power, because he thinks that in the philosopher, there will be no such desire for power.
But he's literally arguing, give me complete power to restructure all of society and put myself at the top
because
of it.
It's good.
Exactly, right? But this is why I can't stand Plato. It's just, it's not that he's not smart. He's incredibly smart, but it's so obvious when it's like, everyone else wants power, so put me in charge and I'll be the philosopher king. I don't want money. I think it's fair enough, but like he wants everything he's saying he doesn't want. And it's like, sorry, no.
It's like one of those people that if they do something bad, they say, at least I feel bad.
Yeah, exactly.
The other people don't.
Yeah, exactly. There's a special case for me. Yeah. It's like, oh, come on,
And he has this very ruling class that infiltrates the human relationships, because he says there is the class of those who know, and they should basically be the rulers, and they should tell the people the idea that they are born with a metal in their soul, the gold, the silver, and the bronze, and those with gold in their soul should be members of the ruling class.
Oh, good thing I've got gold in my soul, isn't it, Plato?
Goldie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this drives me crazy as well, because, I mean, Plato at this point wasn't ruling any states.
Yeah.
He had no experience of the job that he was ascribing to himself. And then, as you say, when he goes over to Syracuse, finds actually it's not like he expected at all, and then gives it up.
Yes, I think he tried to go to Syracuse, and I think the local tyrant there was Dionysius II, if
I'd have to check. But
we'll have to check. Don't take my word for it. And he thought that he could turn him into a philosopher king, but he failed. And I think at some point he was sold as a slave. Plato was sold as a slave.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
And towards the end of his life, I think he revised his belief. He has the work that is considered to be his mature political philosophy is the Laws. Is one of the last dialogues he wrote.
This to me it's such a great example of an intelligent person theorizing miles away from the subject. And then the second they come into contact with the subject, all I can hear is Oakeshott being like, I told you, I told you, I told you. You can have all the technical knowledge you want, you can theorize it out all you want, but there's information in the practical doing of the thing that you don't have access to, you can't abstractly formulate. And once you go through it, you realize how ignorant you were before you started. And then you come back essentially with all your beliefs completely changed. And Plato's a great example of this.
He is. But I think we could we could do a bit more charitable with him. In what sense?
Sure.
That if we dislike abstract criticism, such as the criticism of existing structures that Rawlsians, for instance, do, I think we should try to locate him historically. Because just imagine a person who for the first 3 decades of his life, he was completely dissatisfied with systems of decision-making that were centralized and decentralized. So we have democracy, which is a decentralized method of decision-making that killed Socrates, basically, and cost Athens the war. And then we have the regime of the 30 tyrants that were atrocious. So he had to deal with the facts of his life, and he had to basically come into terms with those questions. He did take a stand.
And I have to sort of check my privilege on this as well, because I do have the privilege of 2,500 years of intellectual development that he didn't have. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being too harsh on old Plato.
Okay, but I mean, at least he's so prescient in some cases, and I have some quotes that I think you will find very insightful, which may lead to the conclusion, may
soften my opinion of Plato.
Or actually not, because you say if he predicted all these bits that we see nowadays, well, maybe he could have been more self-critical.
See, that's the thing, though, because Aristotle, I mean, he's a student, right? So he's got lots of experience with Aristotle. And Aristotle seems to me to be basically right on all of the major questions about human nature, right? About being human, about the proper place of reason and personal exercise, and the personal experience of yourself in the world, right? Practical wisdom and things like this. Like Aristotle's got a much more sensible balance of these things. Yeah. And so, it's one, it's all well and good me saying, well, Plato couldn't have known, but actually he had quite a good person around him to say, well, what about this? What about that? So maybe I'm not softening my position on Plato so much.
So I want to say something that I find very insightful in this text. And this is a theme that he develops in many dialogues, such as the Phaedrus and the Timaeus. It's his conception of the soul. And I think that this will lead us into a really interesting discussion about the kind of people that most people are nowadays, which is tied to the society they live in. So I think that in a way, the way Plato draws this analogy between a city and a soul is weird. It's too much rationalistic. It seems as if he is living in his own mind more than he's living in the actual world. Yeah. But do you think that there is a point there when we say about the kind of people we are and the way we think and the way we act affects society? I mean, and also society affects us.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. So he has this really interesting theme of the tripartite conception of the human soul. And he says, we have the rational part, which is, the mind. We have the sentiment, and we have the appetites. So many people nowadays, they say, well, no, I don't like reason, I like emotion. That is not the distinction that he draws. He doesn't draw a distinction between reason and the sentiments. He just says that the sentiments should be guided by reason. And on the other hand, it is appetite that is the problem. That is the main problem. So what he wants to say, by and large, is that in the just person is also temperate. And the temperate person is the person whose soul is dominated by reason. And that means that sentiments, the sentimental part and the appetitive part, are disciplined. So the key notion here is discipline. And he thinks that discipline is what lacks in other forms of character, in other kinds of character. So the thing is that there is a question to be made as to, in today's society, people are completely dragged down by their appetites, as Roger Scruton was saying. That there's a question whether in too much consumeristic societies, where everything
It's the
revolves
fulcrum of our civilization.
Yeah, where everything revolves around pleasure, whether we are completely drugged down by our appetites.
Oh, I think that's completely true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's consumerism itself writ large, isn't it? The very notion of consumerism is to satiate the appetites.
Yes.
And continue to feed them, and to train them to want more and more and more, and nothing's enough.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.